You may have wondered, just like me, what does it mean to have a balanced life? And how can we turn our weaknesses into strengths? Well, today's video is about finding the perfect life balance. So, let's get to it. There's so much to know and do in life. What does it really mean to be balanced? Do you have to learn a little bit about everything? Do you have to be able to do a little bit of everything? Or is there a specific right amount of each thing that everyone needs to be able to do to be considered balanced? Now, when I was younger, I didn't think I was really balanced. In fact, I looked at myself and I thought, what a bum. I mean, there's a lot of work that needs to be done here. So I had this idea. I looked at all the incredible people out there and began picking everything they had that I didn't. The plan was simple and the logic was sound. I would take all the strengths of these incredible people and become the perfectly balanced person and be totally awesome. Yeah, at the time it made sense, but now it sounds crazy, I know. I mean, clearly it's proven that people are different. There are personality tests out there as trivial as knowing what Disney princess you are, to even more professional ones like the Myers-Briggs test. And just on top of that, consider the thousands of different professions out there. It's crazy to think that somebody could be and do everything. People are different, and by observation, the world needs different. So I think one of the main things, though, that held me back, that made it difficult to see and accept my weaknesses, was my perception of my weaknesses. I had this idea in my head that weakness is bad and needed to be eliminated. That weaknesses were the things that were holding me back from becoming great. And so to become great, I would have to overcome my weaknesses, and I would even have to turn these weaknesses into strengths. And I realized that I didn't really see the value in my weaknesses. My weaknesses aren't negative. They aren't bad things about me that make me, flawed. My weaknesses are actually just as valuable as my strengths. They're both a part of what make me, me. For instance, I'm not creative, which I saw as a weakness, but I realize I'm very structured and love order. If I were more creative, I'd most likely not be as structured. I'm not emotional. Instead, I dive into the facts and numbers. I'm not adventurous. I'm simple, or rather, I'm just plain boring. I'm not very talkative, but I like to observe and listen to what's going on around me. Again, all of these weaknesses about me aren't bad things. Both strengths and weaknesses are characteristics that make me whole. Without one, I wouldn't have the other. And don't get me wrong, I mean, both my strengths and weaknesses have improved over time. But I think there'll always be things in my life that are easier and harder for me to do. And the things that are easier, I would call my strengths. And the things that are harder, I'd call my weaknesses. Now, just to give you a picture of all this, I remember in college, I was part of a club with around 250 members. I had received a new position as an activities coordinator. And now, I didn't think I was the right person for the job, because the traditional activities coordinator is social, they're creative with these cool games and activities they'll do, and that just wasn't me. So I had to think about it really hard, but I worked with who I was. I didn't try to be the traditional activities coordinator, well, mainly because I couldn't be that activities coordinator. But because I was observant, I realized what type of games people liked and why they came to the activities. And I wasn't that creative, so to get my games, all I did was I Googled everything. And I found out all the creative things other people had made already. And so I made this big database that I could select tons of different types of games anytime I wanted. And I was actually pretty simple and structured, so I took a lot of these games that were kind of difficult to implement, and I made them easier and more fun for the people at the events. And the result was we had an attendance before of around 40 people. By the end, I had it up to like 90. And so there's a ton of different ways that you can come at things depending on what your strengths and weaknesses are. Now, the goal here isn't to create a balanced life. The goal is to discover and accept the balance you already have. And a good way to do this is by identifying your strengths and weaknesses. And as you discover this balance, you'll be happier and you'll be able to be more successful in any area you go into. Now take Desmond Doss as an example. He enlisted in World War II as a medic. But the unique thing about Desmond Doss is that he refused to carry a firearm or kill enemy soldiers. Now, unsurprisingly, nobody liked the guy. Everybody thought he was a risk, couldn't trust him on the battlefield, but eventually Desmond Doss was awarded the Medal of Honor for personally saving 50 to 100 men while his comrades retreated in the battle at Hacksaw Ridge. Now, some people might say, well, you can't win a whole war with Desmond Doss. Well, of course you can. And luckily, there's a lot more people out there than just Desmond Doss to fight a war. But when looking at people who have been credited by doing amazing things, they all have something in common. They knew their balance. Marie Kondo built her whole profession around tidying. Cesar Millan focused on his love for dogs. Steve Jobs spent many nights alone coding, while Emily Dickinson spent many nights alone writing. Now, in looking at the four, Emily Dickinson is most likely the strongest poet. This doesn't mean Steve Jobs can't spend his time writing poems, but can you imagine what would have happened if Steve Jobs quit halfway through his career and stopped coding because he wanted to try to become the next great poet? Or what if Marie Kondo gave up tidying because she thought coding was a more valuable skill? Each of us is unique. We all have different strengths and weaknesses that make us great. Now, there are a lot of ways in discovering your balance. I just wanted to name 3 that I thought would be helpful. The first is to try and filter through activities. Be willing to try new activities and to give some up. I mean, my interests have changed a lot over time. I thought I wanted to dance because everyone was dancing, and I thought I wanted to be a coder because it looked so cool, and I loved playing video games all the time. But eventually I switched these things out that made me happier, that I was better at, that I had more enjoyment doing, and you will too. So again, be open to new activities. Next is to prioritize. Regularly look at your life and see where you're spending your time and what is most important to you. And this will change again over time, because at one time I thought being an extrovert and socializing was the most important thing in my life. But as I kept going, I realized that my family was really what made me happiest. And I learned that I was an introvert, and I found I only needed to spend enough time in school to stay in my program that I wanted to be in at college. And so this adjusted over time. The last suggestion is the one I think is the most important. Help and be helped. Helping others and allowing others to help is the easiest way to learn your strengths and weaknesses. For instance, one thing that I realize about myself is that I get sucked into things, causing me to forget about doing simple tasks like eating or brushing my teeth or sleeping. But my sweet wife has helped me a lot in this aspect by acting almost as safety rails to ensure I stay on track. Now, on the other hand, I'm able to help her with a lot of her projects because of my ability to get sucked into things and work nonstop. And so by working with my wife and finding out how I could help her and how she could help me, help me see what I'm good at and maybe what I'm not so good at. To summarize, we're all unique and need different life balances. Each one of us has a place in life only we can fill. So the real question isn't how can I create a balanced life? The real question is, what is my balanced life? What is my balance? And if you don't know, no worries. I mean, we have our whole lives to figure this out. And luckily, we can start today.
Thanks for watching. If you like this video, make sure to hit the thumbs up button below and subscribe to our channel for more content. We'll see you next time.